It's time to pick a side. The border war is on the air with BG and 10. Gang, welcome into episode 155 of the Border War. I am the TanMan. I am steering the boat solo this week. No BG in the studio. Perhaps he will make an appearance at some point this week, but for today, it's all TanMan, and 155 is going to be all about the Tar Heels. So buckle up and get ready. Before we get into it, you can follow the show on Twitter at the Border War. You can follow my partner, my incognito partner, BG. He is at BG_Border War. And you can follow me at Tar Heel TanMan. We are also on Facebook as well as whatever platform you like to consume your podcasts on. I'm sure we're there. If we're not and there's one you like, let us know. We'll get on there. So like I said, this one is all about the Tar Heels. No BG, so I'm steering the ship. So let's get right into it. We'll start off. North Carolina was selected earlier in the week. They will be playing in a bowl game for the first time in several years. They learned their bowl destination over the weekend. They will be heading to Annapolis, Maryland to take on the Temple Owls. The Owls went 8-4 this year. Look, Temple is, this is probably a best case scenario for North Carolina as far as possible bowl opponents. BG and I talked about this for a few minutes last week, looking at some possible destinations. Like I said, they're headed to the Military Bowl. That was a popular prediction. We saw several different potential opponents in that spot for North Carolina. Temple was one. I know Navy certainly was one, and there were a few others. But I thought, look, if this is where you're headed, drawing Temple is probably, like I said, the best possible outcome for North Carolina. The Owls they've quietly put together a string of solid seasons over the last several years. Temple for many years was basically a doormat in college football. That has started to change some over the last 5 or 6 years, it seems like. But definitely you wanted to avoid Navy in what would have been a road game. In that Temple, they started off the year 5-1, I think. It seemed like they had a win over Memphis involved in that. They had a close loss to the other AA team in that conference championship game. Had a close loss to Cincinnati late in the year. So again, Temple started off strong. They beat a ranked Maryland team at the time on the road. They started off strong. Kind of faded a little bit coming into the stretch, but certainly a nice opponent for the Tar Heels as they look for their 7th win a couple weeks from now. So that's listen. I said it was all about the Tar Heels. Let's move on to why we're really here. All right, let's move on to the meat and potatoes of the North Carolina. Look, we all love football. I love football. You listen to the show. We talk a lot about football, college football in particular. We're all fans, okay? But as a North Carolina fan, look, we've said it many times. Look, we know what pays the bills, right? We know what pays the bills. We know what we all wait for. It's not a secret. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It is what it is. And I'm talking about college basketball. If you've watched the Tar Heel basketball program lately, you are probably, much like myself and much like many, many others from what I've seen over the course of the last few weeks through Twitter and Facebook and various social media accounts that people have. Look, you're frustrated. You're frustrated. I get it. I am right there with you guys. But as you follow these things on Twitter and the groups on Facebook, and it seems like there's two camps in this. You have the one camp who's going, look, we'll be okay. We're gonna be fine. Roy's gonna get these guys. He's going to get them right come February and March. We're going to make a run to a Final Four and a national championship. Okay. And then there's the other camp where, of course, everything is gloom and doom. The sky is falling. This is the worst team we've ever had, right? Well, which camp are you? Ask yourself, which camp are you? Because it's time to have an honest discussion about this basketball team and about this basketball season. All right? Let's face it. This team, as currently constructed, just might not be any good. They might not be very good. Now, when I say they might not be very good, I want to put that in context. I don't mean that this is going to be 2002, 2003, 8-20, not very good. All right, it's far, far from that. But you know what? It's also far from last year, year before even. Listen, this is not one of the better teams. In fact, if you go throughout Roy Williams' tenure as head coach at North Carolina, I think you can make the argument that other than that 2009 to 2010 team that followed up the 2009 national title, where you had 4 guys on the team who ultimately wound up finishing their college careers somewhere else. Other than that team, from top to bottom, this might be the worst team that he's had. Might be. Now think about it. That 2009-2010 team, you had the Ware twins that transferred. You had Larry Drew that transferred. And you had Alex Stevenson, I think, who ultimately. I'll take that back. He may not have been on that team by then, but you get the point. They had the 3 guys. They had the 3 guys who wound up transferring off that team. That ultimately, look, they struggled. They had to win a game. I remember it. Remember it clearly. They had to win a game at Wake Forest to feel like they were, because you weren't going to beat Duke and you're probably not going to win an ACC tournament game. So you had to win that game at Wake Forest that would have ensured a 500 record to get into the NIT. All right, that team was on the way to missing the tournament. This team isn't that. But listen, let's be honest. It might not be that far off. Okay? It might not be that far off. When you look at this roster, all right, you have, I feel like, 3 guys who you can count on. And I'm talking about Armando Bacot, Garrison Brooks, and Cole Anthony. Garrison Brooks has become a popular whipping boy. But look, he and Bacot together, they work. All right? They work. Brooks is starting to knock down a little bit of a jump shot from the free throw line. Listen, he hits that shot, he's going to be good to go. Listen, those 2 guys, they play well together, they work well together. It works. Now, when you get to Cole Anthony, listen, if you saw his performance against Virginia, you cannot have your main guy with 6 turnovers and no assist. It can't happen. All right? It just cannot happen. And listen, let's call a spade a spade. One of the reasons I love Roy Williams as a coach is because after a game, he gets behind a microphone. He doesn't pull punches. Look, if you stink, he says we stunk. All right? That's always been one of my big criticisms. If you've listened to the show, you know that's my big criticism of Will Muschamp, that he gets behind a microphone and fills you up with a bunch of coach speak that nobody understands. Listen, just tell me we weren't very good, and Roy will do that. Roy tells you, listen, we stunk today. They were better today. And I feel like here we are, a month into the season, and he's had to have that press conference 3 times already. The last 2 games, Cole Anthony, he's not been very good. All right? He stunk. All right? He struggled shooting the ball. He struggled getting his teammates involved. Now, they haven't held up their end of the bargain, but we'll get to that point in a minute. But the main thing I feel like with Cole Anthony is he's kind of in his own head a little bit. Maybe. Yeah. Ask yourself, how many times have you watched Cole Anthony on a one-man fast break? Maybe 2, maybe 3 guys, 3 defenders on the other end. He dribbles it in, gets caught in traffic, turnover. I know it happened a couple times Sunday, because that was about the time I did the Peter Griffin meme, done, and threw my hands up and got out of my chair and walked away. Listen, after the Notre Dame game, which, by the way, a performance that has rarely, if ever, been seen by a freshman. His first game, I think it was the highest scoring debut for a Carolina player in history. So if you want to say historical performance, here we are. What are we in? 8 games, 9 games into the season. If not for that performance, here in the middle of December, we're already sitting here with 4 losses. 3 is bad enough. 3 looks bad enough, but we're that close to having 4. Now, Roy has said before, listen, we expect a lot of Cole Anthony. We do as fans, they do as coaches. But he's also got to play within himself a little bit. And I think right now he might be trying to do just a little bit too much. And part of that is because, like I said a minute ago, look, his teammates are not holding up their end of the bargain. All right, listen, let's face it, they're not. When you look up and down this roster, you see several juniors and seniors. Guys that you should be able to count on that are not coming through for you right now. I don't even want to talk about what Christian Keeling is doing when he gets on the floor right now. Because what he is, the biggest thing that I enjoyed Sunday watching that Virginia game was seeing Anthony Harris and Jeremiah Francis come into the game. Because seeing those 2 guys, if they're healthy enough for some action, then it's time to take Christian Keeling, send him to the end of the bench, and never, never, never speak of this grad transfer route again. Pierce has done okay, but Keeling, he was supposed to be the 18-point scorer. Oh, the Charleston, that's what he does, is put the ball in the basket. When are we going to see that guy? Probably never. But then you look at the rest of this team. Listen, we went through several years where, again, we're having this honest conversation, so let's keep it real. Let's keep it honest. We went through several years where we couldn't get kids to come. We couldn't get kids to commit. We couldn't even get some kids to take a visit, right? You see them going all over the place. Going to Outpost. Can't get them to Chapel Hill. You had the recruiting class with Joel Berry and Theo Pinson. Those guys stayed there 4 years. That followed up with the senior years with Luke May and Kenny Williams. Cam Johnson was a grad transfer into that. Then you look at the freshman last year, Kobe White. Listen, Kobe White was not supposed to be a one-and-done top 10 pick in the draft. He played his way up there. He played above what his recruiting ranking was. Say what you want about Nasir Little, but Kobe White outplayed his recruiting ranking. And when you take Kenny Williams and Luke May and Cam Johnson, those 3 guys outplayed their recruiting ranking. And what that did was that hit a lot of the other guys on this team. A lot of the other guys on this team could come in, they could play 3 or 4 minutes a half, if that. Just come in, don't screw it up, go sit back down. And we all pat him on the back. Good job, man, he's a good player, right? Well, where are they now? Where are they now when we need them to play 25 minutes a game? What are they doing? I'm going to tell you what they're doing. They're getting flat out exposed. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. And it's ticking me off. You know, when Brandon Robinson hurt his ankle in that exhibition game, it kind of looked a little choppy for the first couple games. Everybody goes, well, when we get B-Rob back, yeah. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me right now? When we get B-Rob back, Brandon Robinson is a senior who never started a basketball game until this season. Not one. Not when a guy was hurt. Not against some scrub team you're going to beat by 30. Not when a guy was sick. Nothing. He started 0 games. And for his career, he's averaged less than 3 points a game coming into the season. And that's the guy? That's what we're doing? We're pointing to him like he's going to come in and save the day? Then you have someone like Andrew Platek. Andrew Platek played less minutes as a sophomore than he did as a freshman. A true freshman. So what does that tell you? What that tells me is Roy Williams doesn't trust him. That coaching staff doesn't trust him. Yeah, he's had some wide open shots. I think it was Sunday. Wide open from the wing. Doesn't even draw iron, man. Doesn't even draw backboard, much less iron. And I'm not even going to get in to Leaky Black. Look, I know that Leaky Black had a lot of injuries. He had some things to deal with. He was banged up a lot. He caught a raw deal with some of that stuff last year. But can we please stop with the Leaky Black? Oh, he can defend any position. He can play on. Why don't we get Leaky Black to play one position? Can we get that? Can we get him to focus in and hone in and just play one position really well? Let's stop talking about all the things he can do. Just do something. Just do one thing really well. That's all we want. All right? Look, it's time to, and I'm guilty of this too, it's time to temper our expectations for this basketball season, okay? You look at the rest of the month, upcoming for North Carolina, they've got Wofford. They've got a little bit of a break here. They always do this time of year. They've got Wofford that they're going to play over in Carmichael. They follow that up a few days later with a trip to Spokane, Washington, to take on Gonzaga. Listen, they're doing what very few other teams do. They're going to Gonzaga. So tip your cap to them. But maybe in hindsight, this was not the right year to take that trip. Now follow that up with another trip out to Vegas to take on UCLA. Different venue, same city. Second year in a row taking on the Bruins out there. And I believe they close up December on the 30th. Yale. Could be an interesting game. That might be the night that Roy Williams ties or passes Dean Smith. Knock on wood. They win a game or two before them. But that could be the night that Roy Williams ties or passes the legendary, greatest of all time college basketball coach Dean Smith. So it should be a fun night. But look, like I said before, have this honest discussion with yourself. Next time you watch North Carolina, really be honest with yourself, okay? Really be honest. Take the jersey off of these kids. Take the jersey off of these players and put a Davidson jersey on them, or put a Georgia Tech jersey on them, or a St. Joe's jersey. Would you watch them? Would you think they were any good? Would you peg this as a good basketball team? I would. I don't know what the rankings are this week. I think I saw something where like 16th. You tell me there's only 15 teams in the country better than this? Have you watched the last two games? Everyone's up in arms about scoring 80. Hell, I just want to score 50. All right? Listen, this team is struggling right now. On the bright side, we've had almost 20 minutes of gloom and doom. On the bright side, listen, we've got a long way to go. All right? Things can turn around. Teams can turn it around. I wouldn't expect a drastic turnaround. And I did pick them to win the ACC to start the year. I think that's going to be way off. Go ahead and chalk that up now in mid-December of things I got wrong. But making the tournament is not that hard. I fully expect this team to make the tournament. I'm not bottoming us out to that point. And you've seen, if you want a bright spot, you've seen teams get in the tournament. You've seen one guy with a little bit of help. One guy and a Robin. Those teams do make tournament runs. So the people who are on the, everything will be okay, we're going to be great, that side, there is a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. Listen, the truth is, this team is probably somewhere in that middle. And again, we've got a long way to go. So I don't want to. I'm not shoveling dirt on us yet, because I believe if Cole Anthony, with great expectation comes great responsibility. I believe Cole Anthony is capable of carrying that responsibility. He's capable of carrying that burden along. But he's going to need some of these other guys to step up and help a little bit. Some of these other guys to carry some of that weight for him. So far, in my opinion, I don't think that that's really something they can do. That might be asking too much of some of these guys on this basketball team right now. We're going to have to rely on Garrison Brooks and Armando Bacot. But just other guys, somebody, anybody, please, if you're out there, give us something. Because like I said, we have this thing in our head where when guys put this jersey on, then all of a sudden, this light is supposed to go on. They're supposed to be fantastic just because they've got on the Carolina blue. They've got North Carolina across their chest. It's not that. Yeah, it's not really like that. It feels like it sometimes, but it's not. Roy is a basketball coach. He's not a miracle worker. So temper your expectations just a tad. Like I said, don't bottom them out. Don't shovel the dirt on them. Don't completely write them off. Just temper the expectations. Turn them down just a tad. Because I don't know about you, but I would rather be proven wrong at the end of the year than I would rather be proven wrong and us be really good at the end of the year than spend the next 3 months spouting out sunshine and rainbows, and then the first weekend of the tournament, we're back on a plane headed back to Chapel Hill. I don't know. Like I said, it's a long season. Maybe things can get turned around. Maybe it starts. Maybe it starts in Spokane. I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, got some a few tough games. Nice, some nice competition to close out the month of December before we get into ACC play. Listen, guys, I appreciate you sticking around for my rant. It felt good. It was very cathartic to get that off my chest. I really wanted to come on here and get some of these things out on Monday, but I said no. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait and cool down. Maybe I bring it in a little bit, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm just as frustrated now as I was Sunday afternoon. Just as frustrated now as I was the next morning. Whatever day it was, I think it was Wednesday night when Ohio State came to our house and just blistered us. And look, I don't know. Sometimes you're at a loss for words. This is one of those times. This is not the North Carolina team I expected. This is not the North Carolina team that we've come to expect over the years. So we'll have to see how things go over the next couple weeks. Could be interesting. Again, thank you for hanging out with me for a few minutes, letting me get some of these things off my chest. My partner BG, he will probably hop on here some point this week. The Gamecocks, some big news out of there. If you haven't seen, Jake Bentley heading out to Utah. They've hired an offensive coordinator, Mike Bobo, coming over from his stint as head coach at Colorado State, former teammate of Will Muschamp's at Georgia. So I know BG's got a lot to say about that. Also, don't forget a chink in the Clemson armor. Jeff Scott, co-offensive coordinator, is heading down to around Tampa. It was South Florida, I believe it was. So he's headed down there as offensive coach. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, how that affects Clemson. So I'm sure BG will be on here within the next few days to break down all of that stuff, give you his opinion on the Gamecocks' new offensive coordinator. Until then, we appreciate you. Make sure you follow us again on social media at The Border War. And you can email the show. We'll have our picks list up on Twitter here in the next day or so. So you can email those picks in at CarolinaBorderWar@gmail.com. You guys are doing a fantastic job. You're basically every week waxing BG and I, the semi-professionals at this. So keep it up. Thanks for playing along. Thanks for listening. And I will see you back, hopefully in studio with BG next week. I'm out. I'm not turning on the Tar Heel game, though. Not today. Not subjecting myself to that replay.